And I'm sure that you have people here who think I'm an oddball or eccentric.
You've probably never met a man quite like 54-year-old Watt Espy, former encyclopedia and cemetery plot salesman and spinner of yarns. What makes him different from his neighbors in his tiny hometown of Headland, Alabama, is his hobby, and as we understand it, it's the only one of its kind in the country. You see, Watt Espy compiles photographs and histories of everyone who's been executed in the United States, dating back to 1608. This hobby that started 17 years ago evolved into an avocation that's earned him the title of America's foremost death penalty historian. He's documented 15,535 legal executions since the nation was colonized, and his recall of who was who on death row is unfailing.
Right there is Charlie Berger, who was the great Jewish gang leader, not great, but the notorious Jewish gang leader in Illinois, and he was hanged. Above him is Carl Wanderer, who was a genuine World War I hero. He was also a gay transvestite.
His Rogues Gallery is also a reminder of the various methods by which capital punishment has been carried out over the years. Herman Holmes, hanged in Pennsylvania, 1896. Lita Spinelli, the first woman to die in the gas chamber, California, 1941. Louis Young, electrocuted in New Mexico, 1957. Charlie Brooks, first to die by lethal injection, Texas, 1982. But Espy's ledgers chronicle even darker tales of how society has put people to death.
In Louisiana in 1767, I think the most bizarre form I've ever encountered. A man was nailed into a wooden box and sawed in two.
We have periodically drawn and quartered criminals, decapitated them, shot them, crushed them to death, even burned them alive.
The last one in Georgia was 1805, I believe, but you had them two in South Carolina as late as 1825. There is only one form that I can think of right offhand that we haven't used, and that's boiling in water or oil.
Espy launched his hobby in 1970 after getting hooked on crime stories, most of which he gleaned from detective magazines. Initially, he favored imposing the death penalty, but not anymore.
I thought it was a deterrent, that somehow if we hang Day, it would prevent me from committing a similar crime. Within 6 months, I had discovered that it had absolutely no deterrent value whatsoever. I have found so many people who have been executed and subsequently proven innocent, even where after the execution, the alleged victim turned up alive.
He himself has turned up some rather unusual information over the years to round out his research. For example, 14-year-old George Stinney of South Carolina is among the youngest ever to be executed. And Burton Abbott came within a hair of beating the California gas chamber in 1957. Unfortunately, the governor called to commute his sentence just as the deadly cyanide pellet was released. Chester Gillette, a New York murderer, served as a pivotal character in Theodore Dreiser's famous novel, An American Tragedy. And controversy still engulfs Bruno Hauptmann. Was he justly executed in 1936 for the kidnapped murder of Charles Lindbergh's infant son? But the strangest death row character has to be Albert Fish, a 1930s child murderer who enjoyed inflicting perverse pain on himself.
He looked forward to his electrocution with great enthusiasm, said he expected it to be the supreme thrill of his life.
On a more somber note, Watt Espy's research into rape executions has left him troubled.
I believe to this day that well over 50% of the people who've been executed for rape were innocent.
Death sentences have tripled across the nation in the last 10 years, and executions are on the increase. But Watt Espy's studied opinion on capital punishment does not waver.
Murder is a crime against society. Executions are crimes against humanity.
There's a footnote to all of this rather unusual information. Watt Espy has never witnessed an execution in his life and doesn't want to. What he says he wants now is possibly another hobby. Larry Woods, CNN, Headland, Alabama.